What's going on, Broncos Country? Matthew Peterson from the Broncos Breakdown here at Chat Sports, giving you guys my top 5 training camp headlines and stories to watch for as the Broncos reported to camp today. No practices yet. That will get underway on the 27th. But if you guys are excited for football to be back, and I'm a believer of it's not really back until week 1, but at least it's something, right? So if you cannot wait to see some padded practices, and we're going to talk about some real football takeaways, make sure to like today's video to start the show. Now, my first storyline from training camp to watch for is the health of Billy Turner and Randy Gregory, because these are two more notable free agent acquisitions that are going to be starting on this team that have been MIA so far due to injuries. Let's start with Randy Gregory, who's also starting training camp on the PUP list, physically unable to perform after getting knee surgery back in January and then shoulder surgery back in March, all right? Now, the Broncos knew about the shoulder surgery in March. It was actually right after they signed him. That was not a surprise. And ultimately, Gregory was not able to participate in OTAs or minicamp. Now, an interesting update from George Paton's press conference from the summer of George, who tweeted out, George Paton says they expect Randy Gregory to be ready for week 1. Says he's looked really good this offseason, has put in a lot of work to get back. All right, so of course a GM is going to come out and say, we expect a player to be ready for week 1. I would not take that to the bank. This happens every single year. GMs say they expect a player to be ready, and all of a sudden week 1 rolls around and they're not ready. Not saying that's going to be the case this time, but just don't say it's the word from God. All right, as for Billy Turner, he too is starting camp. By the way, so is KJ Hamler. Don't want to forget about him. That's not terribly surprising, though. But going back to Turner, he's coming off that knee injury, which ultimately led to him getting released from Green Bay, right? Failed a physical back in March. Packers decided to part ways after their 4-week knee injury knocked him out for the last couple games up in the frozen tundra, and they don't return him. Now, here's what Nathaniel Hackett said back in May on Billy Turner. We're playing it by ear. It's one of those things that is day by day, and we just want to make sure we're doing all the right stuff for him. Now, that was back in May. We don't have a concrete update on how he's progressing so far, but if he's not ready to go, it's going to be a battle between Tom Compton and Calvin Anderson for that right tackle spot. But all the smoke coming out of Dove Valley is that both these players will be ready to go by week 1. But which player do you think is more important to the Broncos? Is it Randy Gregory or is it Billy Turner? It should be Gregory, but honestly, this is a challenge to someone watching right now, maybe All Out Broncos or Bill or one of the OGs in the comment section. Try to make an argument for Billy Turner, right? Protect Russell Wilson's right side. I could see that. All right, next headline to watch for during training camp. The starting defensive front 5. I'm really curious to see new head coach Hackett, new DC Evero, what they sort of unveil between a 3-4 front defense. Right now, this is the depth chart I have. This is not my projection for week 1 necessarily, but more so what it looks like it's going to be when the first team defense trots out there. Now, the other defensive tackle, defensive end spot Deshaun Williams currently occupies is absolutely open for business, right? DJ Jones is going to knock down or hold down that nose tackle position. You'll have Draymond Jones on the other side. Really interesting to see what they want to do with Chubb, Gregory, Bonito, Reed, Browning, Cooper. They've got tons of talent at that edge rusher spot. A little thin at the opposite 5 technique with Deshaun Williams. They want to put McTelvin Agim or Mike Purcell, move him from nose tackle over there. In fact, if you do a deeper dive at these 3 players who might be on the starting defensive line, could it be Agim, right? 3rd-round pick out of Arkansas 2 years ago that's been rather underwhelming so far, maybe just hasn't looked the part. Deshaun Williams, a UDFA who has had an awesome story so far, I think leads the pack right now. He ended last season on the IR, but he had a couple good games before he got injured. And what was the Chiefs game, if I remember correctly? Yeah. And then Mike Purcell was Fangio's starting defense at nose tackle, bring in DJ Jones. Purcell's a nose tackle. I don't really know if you can move him to 5 technique, but you can sure give it the old college try to get the best skill on the field at once. I'm more looking at this idea, though. Could you see Randy Gregory or Bradley Chubb shift to defensive end. That way you can get a starting five with Chubb, Gregory, and Benito, Browning, Reed, Cooper. One of those guys on the field over a Najim, Deshaun Williams, or a Mike Purcell, because I'd rather have one of those edge rushers. But let's see what Evero wants to dial up. I think we're going to see a variety of packages and whatnot throughout the year, especially on obvious passing situations to maximize the edge rushers. But I'm curious what the 1st and 10 defense looks like for the Broncos. All right, another interesting tweet I want to quickly glance at here. Phil, who covers the Broncos for the team, putting out Peyton saying, "We are excited about Bradley Chubb and we want him here long term." Says Chubb looked like he did during his 12-sack season. An interesting comment to make because Chubb hasn't played a minute yet, right? So does he look like in the offseason of his rookie year? Now, you're going to see a lot of optimism come out, and that's across the league right now, and that's expected. I just don't want you guys to get too drunk on this and go, oh, Bradley Chubb's going to have a 15-sack season now because of what Peyton's saying here. But while we talk about Chubb and, who's going to rack up the most sacks this season, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but I want you all to predict this for me. Who will lead the Broncos in sacks in 2022? Do you think it's going to be Bradley Chubb? Remember, the Broncos, like fun trivia, they have had a different sack leader for the last 4 straight seasons, right? You got Shelby Harris last year in 2021. 2020 was Malik Reed. 2019 was Von Miller. Well, now I'm getting tripped up. But regardless, who will lead the Broncos in sacks in 2022? Also, if you guys have not subscribed, which it looks like 52% of you are not subscribed to the channel, YouTube's got some awesome analytics here. Join the good side, right? Get away from the dark side. Join the Jedis. Join the green. Make sure you are subscribed. That way you can get the best Broncos training camp coverage right here at the Broncos Breakdown. All right, my next headline to watch for Albert Okwuegbunam, no big deal, just stunted on you hoes, versus Greg Dulcich. Tight end 1 battle here. Now, I was a victim of getting really drunk on the Greg Dulcich train, back in April during OTAs or May during OTAs and whatnot. But let's remember, Okwuegbunam is definitely in line to have a nice breakout season after Noah Fant goes to Seattle. Now, so far in his young career, the former Missouri Tiger has only had 44 receptions, 451 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ain't too shabby for a tight end 2 right there, young in his career in the wings of Noah Fant. Now, Greg Dulcich here. Let's go to this side of the story. He was great. He was probably the number 1 story amongst all rookies back during OTAs, rookie minicamp, and sort of even into minicamp, although he got hurt in minicamp. But that's aside from the point here. I want to see how Dulcich fares with pads on and having to block Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory and Draymond Jones and some of these other guys here. Because that's when rookies sort of get punched in the face a little bit. Anyone can make plays when they're wearing just helmets, no pads, running around the field without a defender in sight. But what's it going to be like when the whistle blows and you pick your head up and Bradley Chubb is running full steam at you and you're supposed to do a quick chip block on him and then peel out into the flat? That's something where Albert Okwuegbunam has plenty of experience doing. Let's see how Dulcich adjusts to quicker and faster and real speed NFL practices. All right, next headline to watch for here. What about the starting linebackers? Because we know it's going to be Josie Jewell, right? But who will be alongside Jewell? Will it be Singleton or will it be Jonas Griffith? Depending on who you ask, you'll get different answers. No one's saying Justin Strnad, though. But regardless, Singleton and Griffith, those are the 2 right now that are competing for that other inside linebacker job alongside Jewell. Now, if you want to compare their stats last year, it's not very fair because Singleton got a lot more work in Philly, whereas Griffith, if you remember, was traded from San Francisco early in the season, like was it week 4, week 5-ish? No, earlier than that. Regardless, beside the point. No, I'm thinking different trades. But he really came on as of late when he got to start the last 5 weeks of the season or so, and he was one of the better Broncos linebackers, which was decimated by injuries. But who do you think will be the starting linebacker for the Broncos? Another opportunity for you guys to weigh in here. Seems like a coin flip. Singleton or Griffith? If I had to predict, I'll go Singleton right now because he's got the experience factor, and it really feels like we're just riding the coattails of 5 weeks for Jonas Griffith, which, if that's what we're banking on going into a new season, it's not a very confident bet right there, so I'll err with the vet, Alex Singleton. Fifth and final camp headline to watch for. How could I go a video without talking about our guy, number 3, Russell Wilson? Will he be getting a contract extension? Well, Peyton was asked about this during the presser today, and here's what he said. We all want Russell here for a long time. Any discussions we may or may not have, we're going to keep in-house. At least he's being honest, right? You got to give him that. At least he's not trying to string us along here. Now, we've got more on on Wilson, because Andrew Hackett, now I'm really mixing up names here. Andrew Mason tweeting out about Nathaniel Hackett saying, Hackett asked about the entourage Russell Wilson has around him. To have a quarterback play at a high level, it takes a whole family. Now, let's actually go full screen here for a second, Jeff, because I want to dive deeper into the Russell Wilson contract extension and the entourage, which I become more aware of as of late. Because hand up, I didn't realize the extensive entourage he had back in Seattle. Russell Wilson's really good at football. Thank God for that, because I love him as a football player. Dude can be a bit corny. I mean, honestly, was it just me who was laughing last year when he was doing huddles by himself after he got hurt? But the entourage will be interesting to see how that gels and fits in with a new head coach and new everything for everyone, because he brings a posse with him. Now, as for a contract extension, guy's 33. He's got 2 years left on his deal. I originally predicted a 5-year extension. That would bring him to 40. I'm curious if Peyton wants to invest in a quarterback until he's 40. I mean, no contract really is as long as it says it is, but let's see what Peyton has in mind, if it's going to be a 3 or 5 year contract extension for number 3. All right, final quick little segment I want to get to before we get on out of here. Zach Stevens does a great job of covering the team as well. Tweeting out, Cortland Sutton said the new standard began when Russell Wilson got here. This is just more of the Russell Wilson effect, right? I mean, the air and water in Mile High has been very different since Russell Wilson got traded. This is not the training camp of last year of debating and bickering, will it be Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater? And then there's door number 3 of, does it matter? Because it won't be very pretty either way here. Now, before we really sign off out of here, if you have watched all the way to the end of the video, let's get a Broncos Country. Let's ride. You see what I'm saying? Like, I love Russ, but the dude's corny. The dude's a cheeseball. And that's fine, because he can drop one hell of a moonball. But drop a let's ride down in the comment section below if you've made it this far in today's show.